Welcome back to the CNC plasma machine build. So I think in this episode we need to start getting some of the sheeting on. So I've got some of the material prepared here. We need to cut some of the holes in it and get it to size, and then we can start fixing up the enclosure. So this will form a kind of downdraft system and hopefully keep the worst of the mess off the machine. And then we need to finish off by making up these slats, cutting them down to size, and then getting them fitted onto the machine. Right, let's get into the video. Welcome back to the workshop and welcome to another episode of the CNC plasma build. So I've made a bit of a start and I've got the cable trays installed. They support the drag chains. Yeah, so it's really starting to come together now. So just had some parcels arrive. That one in the back there should be some sheeting that forms the lining and a kind of box that holds the CNC plasma machine. That'll be at this end. And then I'm hoping in the other one it's the slats that run all the way across. And I've also made some of this little section here. This will go underneath and hold some of the box section paneling in place and take some of the weight of the plasma machine. It'll make a bit more sense later. And then I've got two little drop links that go down and also hold some of the sheeting in place. They've got some M5 fixings at each end. I've tapped those and they just need some holes drilled and counterbored in here so I can actually screw them in place, but we'll do that a bit later. So that's the company I got them from, Pennine Metals. And you can judge for yourself what you think about those prices. Well, we'll check them in a minute, but I thought they were pretty good value. So I think it all came to about £45. Alright, that's what we got. Looks pretty nice. Obviously it's all going to be painted. I'll probably use a high temperature like the barbecue paint or something like that, but if you've got any thoughts on that, I welcome those. So clean it down, prime it, some high temperature paint, and then hopefully that'll do it. So let's measure these and see how accurate they are and see if they'll fit in the machine. So I think these are all 1.5 except this one. Should be 2. Okay, good with that. 500, which is pretty much spot on. Yeah, it's about 0.5 mil over. Pretty good with that. I'll check the rest, but after I've done that, let's offer them up and see what they look like. So the reason this one's thicker is it's to... I also need to bring that in a bit. But the plasma machine will sit in here, and this will be removable. I think that's... yeah, that'll go in there. Okay, so there's a piece missing, but we'll get to that in a minute. Alright, so this is the structure that will go onto there, and that will bolt up underneath that channel, and then that's the bottom part of the pocket that the plasma machine will sit in. And then I think, yeah, I'm not going to use those brackets actually. There's some two of these that I showed earlier, so that will go into that frame. Which is why I've got to drill these and counterbore them. So that will sit on there, allow the plate to connect to those. So you've got one side and one the other. And then that's the rear panel. And then once you've got the lid on that, I mean, it won't be airtight, but it'll be pretty well sealed from most of the sparks that are going to be flying about. Obviously on this side there'll be a panel here as well where all the enclosure of the electronics will be in. So I can wheel the whole thing round, self-contained, you plug it in and you can plug in the air and then do your plasma cutting. There's a side piece, obviously it's not in position at the moment, but that will fill in that gap there between the two rails. Now there should have been 2 of those, one that side and one that side. But I think what they've done, they've gone down the cutting list, and where I'd put quantity 1, quantity 2, they just ignored that and just cut one of everything. So yeah, it's cheap enough. I'll just order another single sheet of that. And then the rear there's this panel, which will go in, and this is the one, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but essentially it's going to have 3 120mm fans, you know, the one you put in a PC. Be 3 of those exhausting the air out the back, creating a bit of a downdraft here because everything else is panelled off, and these panels run pretty close to the floor, so they're not completely sealed. Oh yeah, then there's actually there's this base plate. I probably can't even. Anyway, it's this massive sheet here that will sit at an angle, so it's quite high this side, almost up to the top here, not quite, and then it will slope away towards that section there. So I thought I'd start with the fabrication that holds the plasma cutter. So this is the main plasma side. So I marked out all the location of the holes and then centre punched them, and then bored out final size with the step drill. Alright, the side panel's done, drilled all the holes, and I was just moving on to the base, and I thought, great, we'll have this cut out soon and we can join the two together and that'll be our box complete. But I've made an error. So I was just measuring it just to confirm. It's supposed to be 500 by 220, and it's 500 by 200. Obviously just glanced at the 200 there and picked up that measurement, and I've just checked the cutting lists. What I ordered, it was 500 by 200, so yeah, mistakes on me. It's only another £5 to buy a replacement sheet, but it's time, delivery time and so on, so we'll have to put that one to one side and look at some of the other panels. Alright, let's look at the lid next. Now this is a bit thicker, I think this is 2.5mm, and it's so it fills out the gap between the side brackets and brings the whole thing up flush. So if you're cutting any material, this will be at the same height and it'll give it a nice flat top. And don't worry, this is an old cheap caliper. So these ones are for the lid, so they have to take these countersunk screws. So I don't have a counter or a step drill that will do that, so we'll just drill them and then use a normal countersink. Got it now. Okay, I found a few little issues when I've been putting all this together, so this is quite a few hours later. I ended up taking the XY gantries off completely because I needed to kind of basically turn this base round, you know, lean it up against the wall, get access to the back, underneath and so on to start offering up these panels. Also found out, yeah, the end of these little 2020, I need to tap that M6, and I tapped it M5, but that doesn't really take that thread. It needs to be M6, and I haven't got any M6 countersunk screws. This end's M5, because that goes straight into the corner bracket, which I drilled and tapped. So I need to get some M6 countersunk, but they'll do for now. The other thing was these. Spin it around a bit. You can see I've got the main panel on there now, so there's 3 screws each side and they go into basically into this section. And I was going to buy some little threaded inserts that, you know, drop down there, but they'd be quite loose. Now I'm sure I've seen some that have a spring on the back, but didn't manage to see those with a quick search. And my other thought was just to put nuts in there, which would work, but they would just fall to the bottom. And the problem is I'm just dry fitting this. Once I take those screws out, I can see them in, not even in shot, are they? Yeah, so the problem is I'm dry fitting this, so once I take the 3 screws out that side and that side, the little nuts are just going to fall to the bottom. It's going to be a real pain to get those lined up. So what I ended up doing, you can't see them because they're buried in there now, but basically 3D printing something a bit like this. This is for 4040, but a scaled down version that went in the end there, and then it had a little hex pocket in there, and I pressed the nut inside, and then made sure that was a nice fit in there, friction fit, so you could push it down with a screwdriver, but once you let go it stayed in place. So those three are three little nut insert things like that in that section now, so I'll take that off once we paint it and get it back. Okay, so just in time those extra panels have arrived, so we've got a side piece hopefully, and a new lower section for the plasma cutter to sit on. Okay, so I'd already marked and drilled one side. I've just offered it up and that looks like it's going to fit. So we'll use that as a template to drill through or mark into the second one underneath that's just arrived. So hopefully that will go on okay. And then base piece I accidentally ordered at 500 by 200. Should have been 500 by 220 now. It's wide enough. Okay, quick update then. So we've got the two side panels on, this divider panel here, the lid. Still got to make the base, and then we've got to put the kind of sloping bottom in as well. I'm getting a bit low on the hardware, but I think we're going to be okay. And then some of these brackets these ones need a little bit of modification. Okay, so normally when you've got a bit of profile like that, then you've got these brackets, they've got these little tabs on like that, and that allows you, it tries to align them, just makes it a little bit easier to fit. And that's okay, except well, in this instance I need it to be mounted that way, and then they kind of get in the way, and then also I need them to be mounted up against one of the panels, and again they're not going to sit properly, so I've just filed the tabs off for them. It's quite soft cast aluminium, it's not die cast, I think it's just low pressure cast, so it's pretty soft, and I've got 4 of those ready to go, so let's get those fitted. Okay, the first thing I need to do is get these little drop-in T-nuts in there. Now, once they're in, they kind of, don't know, you probably can't see, but they kind of drop down, so they're a bit awkward to pick up the thread. So you can see what I mean now. We've got to be flat onto that panel and flat onto there. Let's see if we can get into that thread. Oh. Oh, got lucky. Okay. Now for these I did think about putting a little riv nut in here and crimping it, but then it will stick out the other side, and thought it might make it a bit difficult to get the main base panel in. And if you're reaching in, you know, if parts fall down there and you're trying to grab them, you're always going to catch on that. So now, because these got to come off again for painting, I'm just using just a regular nut just to make sure it all goes together. Final assembly, it'll be a nylock. Okay, so I've got 2 sides on, I've got a lid, divider panel. We haven't made that piece under there yet, so let's just put the main base. Now it'll slope down. The idea is the sparks kind of hit it and hopefully go that way, and then there'll be a load of fans at the back there. Let's see how we get on with that. Does it fit? It's just caught on that screw head down there. That's what I was worried about, if I had riv nuts sticking in. Go in like that. There we go. Alright, that's got it. Okay, well I deliberately didn't have it too tight in there. There's at least 1 millimetre each side, or maybe 1/2 to 1 each side, and then a little gap at the top and bottom. Last thing I wanted to do is try and fettle it and file it to get it to go in. So I mean, it's just to contain the worst of the mess. So I've got an option in terms of where I position it. I can have it tight up against here, and then there's about a 3mm gap there, which means any stuff that drops onto there and all the dust or whatever that rolls down will go down that gap on the floor, and then I can sweep that up, hoover that up. Okay, there's progress so far. So we've got the sides on, we just put that main sloping base on, decided to bias it that way, so there's a little slot is at that end, and all the dirt will fall down there rather than going in that little slot of the profile, but you know, see how we get on. Lids on. Right, so I think now we need to turn it over and make the main base that the plasma machine sits on, that goes sort of underneath there. Alright, so we've got the whole thing upside down now. Just gently place this on. This is the assembly I showed you at the beginning, and we are 46 from there, 46 from there. So it's centralised that way. And the original plan was to cut the sheet out like that, and this little dog leg piece here is obviously to avoid the wheel. And I've just been looking at it, wondering if I want to go to the effort of making it a dog leg like that, and I was just seeing if I could just straight line that across there, but it's going to be really tight against the wheel. Obviously it'd be a lot easier just to do a straight cut. So just marking up where the holes will be, and it's this edge here, so that'll sit on there. It's supposed to overhang the front a few millimeters, because one of my original plans was to tack weld the two together there, but I've abandoned that because it'll make it a nightmare to take it apart. Yeah, because those two will be together like that, and I think, yeah, that's not going to work. So it's going to be somewhere there. And I was just having a look, and straight lining it, it might go. It's going to be right up against it, and you know, there's a bit of free play in that wheel, so there's a good chance it will catch. Okay, let's mark it out. Let's stay with the plan. Okay, that looks pretty good, and yeah, well clear of the wheels. No problem there. Looks pretty good. Let's get the screws in. Okay, so it's quite close, but yeah, it's okay. Alright, and then the other thing I was wondering about is I was going to maybe put a bit of 12mm ply on there for the plasma cutter to sit on, but I've not got very much height. It's going to get very close to the lid, and I was wondering if it's going to be stiff enough. I think it's okay this side, especially if I do a new fixing into the middle, but at the back there I was always wondering if I needed to put a bit of angle iron, tiny bit between these two panels. I don't know if you can see in there, it's a bit dark. Yeah, it's quite flexible at that back edge. I mean, the plasma cutter's not that heavy, but I just don't want it kind of bouncing around really. So I'll probably put that in there, put a fixing in there, but other than that, it's looking okay. Okay, so I just made a new piece of angle iron, screwed in through there, picks up off that. And then our lid. Hopefully will line up. Nope. So these are the temporary fixings until M6 countersink screws arrive. Right, so I've got this angle line, it's 13 by 13 by 3, and I've just marked it up and then scribe that line along there. That'll be where all the holes are. There'll be clearance hole on one side, and then on the other side, there we go, tapped M5. Yeah, tapped M5, and then each little bracket is going to be 12mm long. We've got to crop it there. So I've just been using the little block here, height gauge, scribing those. So I think, because I've got 70 to make, I've got 24 to make really. I think what I'll do, I'll chop this off as close as I can on the saw, see how square it is, and if that's good, then I'll just keep bringing this back, measuring it, chop, bring it back, measure, and so on. And then I can set up a little fixture or something in the drill, so it's always in the right position, drop it in and drill all the holes, tap all the holes on the other side. Okay, next bit to do is the kind of slats that hold the workpieces on. So I've just made 24 of these little L brackets. They've got a clearance hole on one side to bolt onto the slat. Oh no, that goes into the profile. And then the little threaded on there, that will bolt the slat on. I thought that was the easiest way to do it, just took a while. Yeah, quite a surprising amount of time to cut all those out and then drill all those holes and tap on the other side. Anyway, they're done now. So I was looking around to see how I was going to do the slats, and actually it turned out to be cheaper to buy this, which is like a kit for a plasma machine made by Sealy. It's called the PCT1. Yeah, that was cheaper than buying the strips. I wanted them 500 by 3mm thick by 30, and these are ideal. They were advertised at 3mm. They were a bit long, but I could cut them down. However, now they've arrived, that is clearly not 3mm, it's 1.8. Now it does have that little depression in there, little pressing, which I guess, it depends how you measure it really. Maybe you could call that 3 or something. So that's a bit of a cheat. Anyway, okay, well, we'll see how we get on with those. They're pretty bent. I can't really see, but they're all over the place basically, and two of them, yeah, these two are considerably longer than all the rest, so that much longer. Maybe that's the machine, I assume that's, maybe they're the start and end, who knows. And then a couple of them, I don't know if that's a feature of the machine itself, as like a locator feature, but 3 of them have got this little bit in it, or it's just been caught on the press. I don't know, I'm not familiar with that machine, but yeah, to be honest, I wish I'd have paid more, bought the raw material, and I could have had them exactly as I want. But anyway, here we go, this will get me started, and then as these wear away, I can put some proper stuff in. Right, so these need to be cropped to length, and they need to have a slight angle put on them, because they're deeper than I wanted. These are 40 instead of 30, they need to have an angle cut to avoid some of the sheeting. And they need to have holes drilled in each end so we can screw them onto the machine. Right, so let's get all that done. I'll just show you on the machine where they're going to fit, and then we'll get those trimmed. Okay, so the little angle brackets will go along here. There'll be, well, I can put 12 in each side, so I've made 24. I've only got 10 of these slats, but they're through there, and then the threaded holes on this side. So the idea is have quite a generous clearance hole in here, and then I can get those lined up. And you can see they are, because they're deeper than I wanted, they're going to hit that bit of panel work there. So I'll just trim a bit off the bottom corner. Obviously we'll won't have that, so yes, it'll look more like that. I'll just bolt those on and get those flush with the top. And that'll be our slats, at least to start with. Okay, well, I've got quite a few of these to make, and it was basically taking forever to mark each one out and drill it. So I've just invested a bit of time in this fixture. So what we can do now, drop our blank on there, put our master over the top, get the little press sections roughly lined up, doesn't matter, and get that lined up with the edge. Then we can grind that and that, flip it over, do the same, and then drill through and drill the holes. It took a while, but we got there, and it was well worth investing a bit of time in this jig because each of these pieces was slightly different, so that really helped just try and get them a little bit consistent. Okay, I think the last thing to do then is to bolt these into the main frame using those little L brackets, and then see what we've got. Okay, so we've got a few of these to put in now. Put them there for now. They are a bit fiddly because you've got to get these little L brackets through into those little T-nuts there. A bit fiddly to get those in, and then put the screws in through here. At least I threaded that one, so I wouldn't have to put a nut and bolt. But yeah, still a little bit fiddly. So let's get the next one fitted. So in terms of spacing, I've put them about every 50mm for now. What I might do is bunch them together a little bit in the middle. I've seen that done, so that might be useful if you've got small work pieces. You can have them close together. We'll see how we go. Or I may buy some more metal for one, a lot more closer spacing. Right, I think that's all we can do for now. I've put some of the slats on, there's a few to go, but I just need those little T-nuts that go inside there, and they're on order. Hopefully they'll be here tomorrow or the next day, and then I can finish that off. In the meantime, now I won't film this, but I'm just going to take all the panels off, clean them down, and then spray them with a high temperature paint. And then we can put all this back together. So at the next video, hopefully you'll see all that done. And we can remount the gantry, the X and Y axis, and all the gantry chains on there, and then have a look at the enclosure. So there's quite a bit of work still to do on that. Okay, I think that's it for this video. If you enjoy watching this series, then feel free to subscribe, hit the bell icon for notification when I upload the next video. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.